Water is scary, especially when it forms large bodies. This rings especially true across pretty much all situations. Being on totally open water is freaky. Seeing things rise up from the depths is freaky. Watching storms and waves and other naturally occurring aquatic phenomena is freaky. So it stands to reason that horror movies would take advantage of water's inherent scare factor. All of the terrifying creatures that lurk below the surf come out to play, often with bloody and brutal results. It started with sharks and only got weirder from there. Would you rather know what was hiding underwater or live in blissful ignorance? Coming in number 5, we've got The Meg from The Meg. Sometimes I wonder how many shark movies actually exist and my brain overheats. Like ever since Jaws, there's been an obsession with gigantic sharp-toothed fish flying through the water and eviscerating people. Sometimes they jump way out of the water, other times they manage to sneakily chew a limb or two off a swimmer. Hell, there's even been instances of them finding their way into a tornado or two. But the most recent big shark flick took the idea and supersized it, like quite literally too. While it might not be a horror movie by strict standards, it definitely delivers on the terrifying aquatic monster. This movie is all about a team of scientists who come across a whopping 75-foot-long Megalodon shark. That is the titular Meg. Could you imagine ever seeing a predator that was 75 feet long, especially in the dark, murky depths of the ocean? Well, here's the thing. 75 feet is just the beginning. Spoilers for anyone who's really invested in this shark movie that came out 2 years ago. So after all sorts of crazy underwater antics, the crew manages to snag the Meg. They caught the thought-to-be extinct mega shark. Rejoice! But hold on. It's way too early for the shark to be donezo. We're only like an hour into the movie. Well, if you thought there had to be more, you'd be right. While celebrating their catch, the crew witnesses something truly awe-inspiring. Another, bigger Megalodon shark speeds its way onto the scene and eats the first one. After instilling a sense of awe in the audience early on with the original giant shark, they decide to blow those expectations out of the water with an even more enormous aquatic monster. Just awesome. Say what you will about the movie as a whole, there is nothing cool than a giant shark getting devoured by an even gianter shark. Coming in number 4, we've got Piranhas from Piranha 3D. For another journey into the land of absurdly sized fish, let's take a look at Piranha 3D. This is B-movie schlock at its peak. An earthquake opens up a chasm at the bottom of a lake, releasing thousands of ancient carnivorous fish just in time for spring break. And they are hungry. They've been surviving via cannibalism for the 2 million years they've been assumed to be extinct, and they are ready for some fresh meat. Fresh human meat. These things are vicious. They tear people apart in seconds, leaving goofy little bloody skeletons behind. It's a sight to behold for sure. I guess spending millions of years in an underground cavern void of light full of the remains of the brethren you just consumed makes you aggressive or something. Isn't that the backstory of the monsters in The Descent? I'm getting off track here. Most movies use the anticipation of the monster to really sell the scares, but not Piranha 3D. These things go full tilt from the very beginning. They rise from the bottom of the lake and don't stop eating until the very end. And really, at the very end, they're still eating. Sure, the kills start small, but they grow by orders of magnitude. We open on a lone man being devoured, then we get a fishing boat, then some scuba divers bite the big one in the sky. Of course, the bit that everyone remembers is when the piranhas plow through a beach party. Thousands of lives extinguished. Just like that. Whirlpools of piranhas tear people apart with seemingly zero effort, followed by fish jumping out of the water to get at all the landlubbers. And the best part? Piranha did the bigger, badder thing before the Meg. That's right. The piranhas that take out an entire crop of spring breakers are actually babies. They're immature, only a fraction of the size of a full-grown one. Then, as the movie ends, we catch a glimpse of a full-size piranha, bigger than a grown man. And there's more on the way. I love B-movies.
Coming in at number 3, Kieran Crowan. Kieran Crowan was a large sea monster in Scottish Gaelic folklore, famous from one specific saying, I quote, 7 herrings, a salmon's fill, 7 salmon, a seal's fill, 7 seals, a large whale's fill, 7 whales, a Kieran Crowan's fill. Local folklore say this huge animal can disguise itself as a small silverfish when fishermen come in contact with it. Other accounts state the reason for the disguise was to attract its next meal. When the fisherman would watch it in its small silverfish form, once aboard it changed back to the monster and ate him. The creature has a typical water dragon or serpent shape that is vicious and terrifying, consuming anyone who crosses its path. Also, sorry this point was so short, it's literally because Kieran Crowan has no information about it. You can check. Coming in at number 2, Ningen. Over the past few years, rumors have circulated about the existence of Arctic humanoid lifeforms known as Ningen, inhabiting the icy waters of the Antarctic. It has reportedly been observed multiple times by crew members on whale research ships, and these so-called Ningen, meaning human, are said to be completely white in color with an estimated length of 20 to 30 meters. Other eyewitnesses described them as having a human-like shape, often with legs, arms, and even 5-fingered hands. Other times they are described as having fins or a large mermaid-like tail instead of legs or even tentacles. Now, the only visible identifiable facial features are the eyes and mouth. According to one particular account, crew members on deck observed what they thought was a foreign submarine in the distance. When they approached, however, it became clear from the irregular shape of the thing that it was not man-made, it was alive. It then disappeared under the surface of the water. These Ningen stories garnered attention, with an article being printed about the Antarctic humans, with the article speculating on the possibility of unidentified creatures inhabiting the Southern Sea. Sadly, to date, no solid evidence has been presented to confirm the existence of the Ningen. Sightings still occur to this day though, most frequently at night, making them all the more difficult to photograph. Whether they are dangerous, we have no idea, however they are absolutely terrifying to look at, which is why they make it to number 2. And finally coming in at number 1, Leviathan. The Leviathan is a sea serpent monster of immense size from Jewish belief, referenced in the Hebrew Bible and the Book of Job, Psalms, and the Book of Isaiah, and the Book of Amos. The Leviathan of the Middle Ages was used as an image of Satan, endangering both God's creatures by attempting to eat them and God's creation by threatening it with upheaval in the waters of chaos. St. Thomas Aquinas described the Leviathan as the demon of envy, first in punishing the corresponding sinners. It is also classified as one of the 7 princes of hell, corresponding to the 7 deadly sins. In Judaism, sources describe the Leviathan as a dragon who lives over the sources of the deep, and who, along with the male land monster Behemoth, will be served up to the righteous at the end of time. I quote, "The sea monsters, the great fish in the sea, and in the words of the Agada, this refers to the Leviathan and its mate, for he created them male and female, and he slew the female and salted her away for the righteous in the future. For if they would propagate, the world could not exist because of them." According to sources, the body of the Leviathan, especially his eyes, possesses great illuminating power. This was the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, who in the course of the voyage in company with Rabbi Joshua explained to the latter, when frightened by the sudden appearance of a brilliant light, that it probably proceeded from the eyes of the Leviathan. In modern usage, however, the term Leviathan has come to refer to anything, specifically any sea monster, and from the early 17th century has also been used to refer to overwhelmingly powerful people or things, including Moby Dick.
Coming at number 3, we've got the bioluminescent creature from Sea Fever. Our first 2 movies reveled in the bombastic, so let's slow it down for a second. Sea Fever is slow and suffocating in its application of aquatic terror. It really takes its time getting under your skin, but boy, when the fear strikes, it strikes big. It's one of those movies where you're never quite sure if what you think is happening is actually happening, but plenty of clues keep the tension high. Siobhan, a reclusive scientist, finds herself on an Irish fishing trawler heading out to sea. The captain steers the ship towards an exclusion zone, knowing that there are plenty of fish out there even if it's off limits. He doesn't tell the rest of the crew though, leaving them to assume that their big catch was just lucky and outside of the exclusion zone. The exclusion zone was erected for good reason though, as the folks aboard soon find out. During their journey, something stops their boat. Goopy, slimy breaches appear in the hull, and whatever's causing them continues to hold the boat in place. Thinking it's a shoal or something similar, Siobhan hops off the side to do a research dive and discovers the culprit: glowing tentacles originating from a gigantic organism way down below. It is so vast that she cannot see the full form of it from where she is. After their encounter with these strange tendrils, the boat is freed and off they go. But that's just the beginning. See, the big creature manages to infect a crewmate by cutting his hand, injecting larvae into his bloodstream. He starts acting weird, and at first the captain chalks it up to sea fever. You know, when you're stuck on a boat, you start going a little crazy. Too late though, because this guy's eyes explode out of his head, and the more mature larvae make it into the ship's water supply. Anyone could be infected at that point. The bioluminescent creature manages to be incredibly scary while also somewhat sympathetic. It's just an unknown animal doing its best to survive as animals do. They shouldn't have been in the exclusion zone anyway. Although the monster isn't really a virus, sea fever manages to be extremely painfully prescient, as folks want to leave quarantine to get help without considering that they could cause so many more problems in doing so. Coming in at number 2, we've got the creatures from the beach house. Now, if you really want to get Lovecraftian with your aquatic monsters, you gotta head down to the beach house. If an aquatic creature is bioluminescent, it probably means that we as humans were never meant to see it. They come from the deep, deep depths, and encountering anything like that is probably the result of hubris. In the beach house, a young couple heads down to a beach house for some time off. They find that a couple of family friends are there all ready to have one last vacation before terminal illness takes hold of the wife. After eating some edibles, everyone has a weird experience involving water quality, fog, glowing stuff, and more. These oddities are assumed to be side effects to the consuming of marijuana, so nobody thinks too much about it. The morning after has a different story to tell though. The beach is empty save for some strange jellyfish, and everyone seems to have sustained odd injuries. The older couple, Mitch and Jane, are acting very strange, with Mitch walking into the water and not returning, and Jane remaining in a catatonic state. Soon it becomes apparent that something is very wrong, with the jellyfish seeming to infect people, turning them into flesh-hungry zombies. They send little bugs skittering and slithering into people's open wounds, and if you don't rip them out quick enough, you'll end up as a milky-eyed automaton. In addition to the jellyfish and bugs, there's also an infectious fog that will do similar things to people's minds and bodies. Not ideal. Whatever these beings are, they've fundamentally changed life on Earth in the beach house's world. If you're a fan of The Color Out of Space, you'll appreciate this one. And finally at number 1, we've got Bruce from Jaws. Easy number 1 pick, right? You can't go wrong with this shark-infested classic. Jaws set the standard for every shark movie to follow and hasn't ever been matched. Not to mention that it literally birthed the blockbuster. Plus it scared people out of swimming, boating, and in some cases bathing for ages. It inspired folks to get out on the water and kill sharks for sport, which led to some terrible problems with the shark population. That's how much sway it had. The influence this aquatic monster had on the hearts and minds of people is insane, to say the least. In addition to branding the image of a gigantic horrible shark into the brains of every man, woman, and child, it also managed to be very restrained with its implementation of the underwater apex predator. Sure, it was probably thanks to plenty of malfunctions in the shark animatronic, but rarely actually seeing the shark really ups the white knuckle tension. That and the iconic strings. To this day, people know exactly what you're talking about if you sing da-dun, da-dun. Dun, 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 dun. People who haven't seen Jaws know that that means a shark is coming. Phenomenal stuff. Plus, Jaws stays socially relevant. Consider the implications of closing down the beach and therefore business on Amity Island versus what's happening as a result of this pandemic. It might seem like I'm reaching, but the comparison stands. Jaws will never get stale. Good thing winter's coming, that'll keep you away from the water for a little while. No swimming means no shark attacks, right? Or unknown glowing monster attacks, or piranha attacks. You get what I'm trying to say.
Coming in at 5, Umabozu. Umabozu is a paranormal phenomena or yokai from Japanese folklore. Little is known of the origin of Umbozu, but it is a sea spirit and as such has multiple sightings throughout Japan. Typically, Umbozu appears to sailors on calm seas, which quickly turns tumultuous. It either breaks the ship on emergence or demands a bucket or barrel from the sailors and proceeds to drown them. The only safe way to escape an Umbozu is to give it bottomless barrel and sail away while it is confused. They appear and disappear in the oceans, often at night, and it is thought that they would suddenly appear on what was previously a calm sea surface as a giant black bozu head and destroy ships. In the Tohoku region, there is a custom of sacrificing to the gods the first fish caught when fishing, and it is said that if this is not followed, Nambozu would appear and destroy the boat and kidnap the boat owner. They are also said to change their appearance, and in Kesanuma, Oshima, Miyagi Prefecture, there are tales of them shapeshifting into a beautiful woman and engaging in swimming contests with humans. Odd. Outside of Japan, they are half-human legends about sea monks and sea bishops related to the Imbuzu. Coming in at number 4, Ikuturso. Ikuturso, meaning the eternal Tursu, also known as Ikutursas, is a malevolent sea monster in Finnish mythology. As of now, Meriturus means octopus in Finnish, named after Ikuturso, but originally Turus is an old name for walrus. This aquatic creature's appearance remains unclear, but he is described with several epithets. Partalainen, the one who lives on the brink, or alternatively, the bearded one. Tuonenhaka, the ox of Tuoni death. Tutapa, thousand head. to Hatzavi Thousand Horned. It was also sometimes said that he lived in Pohjola, but that could also be because Pohjola was believed to be home of all evil. In some cases, Ikuturso is mentioned as the father of diseases, with Lovete, the blind daughter of Tuoni, the god of death. In the world of Lovecraft, the Ikuturso was a great old one who ruled over the area of Finland until he, alongside the other old ones, was sung into the swamps by Finnish sages and poets, who had learned these abilities from the Sami people. Around the 1930s, author Mats W. Cornelius, who was a correspondent of H.P. Lovecraft, wrote stories in which he compared Ikuturso with the great old one Cthulhu. The creature is mentioned several times in the Finnish national epic. Kalevala, I quote, "From the ocean rose a giant mighty Tursa, tall and hairy, pressed compactly all the grasses that the maidens had been raking. When a fire within them kindles and the flame shot up to heaven, till the windows burned to ashes, only ashes now remaining. Of the grasses raked together in the ashes of the windows, tender leaves the giant places, in the leaves he plants an acorn. From the acorn quickly sprouting grows the oak tree tall and stately, from the ground enriched by ashes newly raked by water maidens. Spread the oak tree's many branches, rounds itself a broad corona, raises it above the storm clouds. Far it stretches out its branches, stops the white clouds in their courses. With its branches hides the sunlight, with its many leaves the moonbeams, and the starlight dies in heaven."
Number 5. The Kraken. Over the port side, boys! There she blows! Batter down the hatches, the Kraken's here! I'm sorry, I absolutely could not resist. I'm just trying to paint you a picture of the scene here. The Kraken is an absolutely legendary sea monster, harking back to old sailors' tales from the 17th century. It started as an old Nordic legend and was said to haunt the waters from Norway through Iceland. But as its legend grew, stories of the Kraken would be passed throughout the world, carrying on from sea to shining sea. It's widely theorized that the legend of the Kraken began with sightings of the colossal squid, a creature almost as mythical as the Kraken itself. An old fisherman's tale, it's depicted as a colossal cephalopod, capable of crushing a fully stacked galleon with its tentacles and bringing it down to the ocean floor. If the tentacles and its heaving beak aren't enough, it also creates whirlpools around it, as it drags your doomed ship down with it all the way down to Davy Jones's locker. The Kraken probably has one of the best PR agents in the sea monster community, being the subject of stories, songs for centuries, finding its way into numerous movies, a career-making role in Clash of the Titans, a very strong supporting role in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise really helped elevate it to stardom, even finding its way into a bunch of video games over the years, serving as a boss for players in God of War, Sea of Thieves, and for the real OGs out there, RuneScape as well. When it comes down to who could defeat who, it's not even a question. The Megalodon wouldn't get so much as 30 seconds with the Kraken. The Kraken of lore was crushing ships in seconds. You think it's even gonna notice crushing a shark? Number 4, the Loch Ness Monster. Now, the Loch Ness Monster is probably the most famous sea creature of all time, and probably one of the most famous Scottish things of all time, alongside William Wallace, kilts, and haggis. It's also one of the world's oldest recurring cryptid stories, with the first reports of Nessie going all the way back to the year 565. And since then, Nessie has delighted cryptozoologists the world over, becoming a cultural icon for Scotland and the Loch Ness as a whole. There's been several concentrated efforts to really find the Loch Ness Monster over the years, and while nothing has ever officially shown up on a sonar or a radar, that has never stopped the stream of sightings and photos of the Loch's gentle giant. Nessie seems pretty benevolent. There's never been a story or an allegation of the Loch Ness Monster eating or hurting anyone, usually just sticking its cute little head out of the water for a quick little blurry candid to be discussed and analyzed for years. Let's talk serious for a second here. In the ring, squaring up in a 1v1, I've absolutely got Nessie over the Megalodon, easy. That long neck is gonna wrap around the Meg, get that thing lassoed. You know, the Meg is big, sure. But the Loch Ness Monster clearly has some stealth capabilities. I mean, it's been eluding capture for the better part of 1,500 years, so I've got to imagine that Nessie's got to know some pretty good tricks for hiding. But more so than anything, Nessie's got the people of Scotland riding for them. You're not just messing with a sea creature, Megalodon, you're messing with a beloved cultural icon. It would be like going to war against raccoons in Toronto. The people just won't stand for it. Number 3, Umbozu, translating to sea priest, is a yokai appearing in Japanese folklore. It's depicted as a large, shadowy figure looming out of the water, appearing to sailors, breaking the ship as it rises, and demanding a bucket from whatever unlucky sailor happens to cross its path. Maybe it's got a leak in the roof. There's some differing opinions onto what the origin of the Umabozu is, as there's no specific origin to its legacy or one tale we can point towards. But it's generally agreed that the origin is that they are the spirits of priests who were thrown into the ocean by villagers for one reason or another, and because these priests have had nowhere to lay their bodies to rest, their spirits inhabit the ocean and take the form of a dark specter, haunting and taking retribution on unfortunate souls in the waters. I'd never heard about this creature until researching it for this video, and I've got to say it has got some fantastic folklore. You really should do yourself a favor and look up Umabozu after. The Umabozu rising from the sea and asking if you've got a bucket for it is hilarious. Like it's more of an annoying roommate than a sea monster asking if it can borrow something. Folklore says the Umabozu would cling onto the hull of the ship and shriek at the sailors, sinking them down. The Umabozu's weakness? The smell of smoke, apparently. So if you're looking to get rid of one, light some sage up, I guess, or light something. I'm sure that's very easy to do when you're on a wooden boat in the water. Now, squaring up against the Megalodon. This one, I actually do feel like it could go either way. The Megalodon, giant shark, Umabozu, scary specter. But I am going to give the edge to Umabozu solely because I don't know if it's got an actual tangible physical form or if it's just a shadow monster. You know, Megalodon can't really bite through shadows, I don't think that's one of its powers. As well, I could really see Umabozu pulling that little trick, you know, hanging on to the side of the Meg, asking for a bucket, and then the Megalodon, who presumably doesn't speak any languages, not understanding what's happening, gets dragged down to the bottom of the sea, never to be seen again.
Coming in at number 2, we've got Dagon from Dagon. The classic monster from the deep. Originating from the Lovecraftian canon, Dagon is a deity who rules over the deep ones. The folks of Innsmouth worship him, people outside the town fear him, and of course he makes a terrifying appearance in a Stuart Gordon Lovecraft adaptation.
I wish I never see.
Innsmouth is exchanged for Imboca though, and the esoteric order isn't named as such, but the terrifying nature of the beast remains. After falling on hard times, the villagers of Imboca are convinced to worship Dagon instead of God. This allows them to return to prosperity, but at the cost of blood sacrifices. Dagon demands human women to breed with, until all the regular humans die off, leaving only the half-human, half-sea creature abominations to populate the village. These creatures are horrid in their own special ways, with slimy fish heads and awful screeches galore. None of the lesser beings compared to the big bad himself though. While only making brief appearances in the movie, Dagon's presence is overwhelming. He permeates every aspect of the sleepy, creepy village as our protagonists discover more and more awful details. The sacrifices and rituals he demands are pretty filthy too. Skin flaying is just the beginning, but it's also shown in full gruesome detail. Lovecraftian creatures thrive on our own fears and being beyond comprehension. Dagon's effect on the humans that come into contact with him is scary in its own special way, even if we never really see the entire creature. And coming in at number 1, we've got Cthulhu from Underwater. And speaking of Lovecraftian creatures, why not cap off the list with the legendary Great Dreamer himself? That's right, we are talking about one of the biggest, baddest creatures out there. Somehow awakened for a guest appearance at the end of this recent aquatic horror flick Underwater, the Great Old One is truly magnificent. For most of the movie, the audience doesn't even know it's Cthulhu. It's a secret Lovecraft story, says director William Eubanks, and some folks don't quite pick up on that fact. But still, it's Cthulhu in all of his ghastly glory. An underwater drilling facility is badly damaged following a wicked earthquake at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. First of all, what are you doing down there? It's not worth it. Things only get worse from there, with strange creatures dragging folks into the murky depths on top of the inherent water pressure threat. The little beasts take all sorts of forms, from unrecognizable masses to vaguely humanoid shapes. But of course, the most terrifying monster of all is the enormous tentacled Great One, Cthulhu. He's the one who's been spawning all the smaller monsters, and he's pretty pissed that there are humans near his abode. Running into something so mind-bendingly horrible so deep underwater is a nightmare no matter how you look at it. And the worst part is, after everything happens, the mining and drilling efforts look like they're ready to expand. Who knows what they'll wake up next. And now we don't know if vodka will help or hurt us. Oh, the humanity. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-5320. You know when an inside joke goes a little too far and starts to alienate the folks around you? Yeah, well that's kinda what went on with this SCP, except the inside joke had to do with a fish that never seems to end end and the weird cult that it spawned. When your top researchers are essentially posting and creating pointless rituals instead of doing their job, somebody's gotta step in. So even though this is a relatively harmless aquatic monster in and of itself, there are a lot of things that it could do to cause problems without ever leaving the comfort of the deep sea. As of right now, this creature is being described as an increasingly long snailfish, although no drones have ever been able to locate a head or tail. It's just all middle. The longer you look at it though, the worse things get. I'm talking about developing new obsessions and being more superstitious than ever. All because of an extra long fish, or as the folks associated with the Church of the Fish that just goes on forever like to call it, our merciful and long Lord, or its glorious infinitude, hail its everlasting fish body. Additional side effects of viewing SCP-5320 include a heightened awareness of the passage of time, increased interest in ceiling tile number, and increased use of the phrase long boy in casual conversation, even when referring to things that are neither long nor a boy. Personnel monitoring SCP-5320 have reported feeling an unusual amount of excitement upon seeing one of SCP-5320's occasionally visible fins, as well as a compulsion to loudly cheer. This odd behavior concerning those who were all for the fish raised some red flags with the higher ups of the Foundation. They launched an investigation to see if anything info-hazardous was actually going on, and the results are inconclusive at best. It seems that all this can be explained away by saying folks tend to get involved with silly superstitions and inside jokes, especially when they're working on something boring for an extended period of time. But it could also be that the fish is info-hazardous and drawing more people under its influence by convincing anyone who looks at it that it's all just goofery. I'd keep a close eye on anyone involved with the Long Lord himself, and even those only tangentially related to it. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-1836. Be careful while roaming the seas, you never know what you could run into. And hell, there are a lot of things out there that have been around a lot longer than us and probably have more claim to the stuff that lives in the ocean. We, as modern humans, often believe we can just do what we want with no consequences. This, as we're finding out quite quickly, is not necessarily the case. Take SCP-1836 for example. An enormous iceberg located in the Cunningham Inlet, colored green and containing all sorts of anomalies. The green color actually doesn't have any anomalous properties, it's just trapped algae. But the rest of the stuff I mentioned, you better watch out. So there are two parts to note here. A mass of long extinct toothed cetaceans and a humanoid figure that hangs out in an open living room style cavern within the iceberg. Basically a bunch of dinosaur style dolphin ancestors and a goddess with super long hair. If you get sensed by the creatures of SCP-1836 and you are hunting or fishing in the area, they're coming to get ya. The iceberg will accelerate towards the creature being hunted, and said creature will somehow know to head towards the iceberg. When they get close enough to each other, the iceberg will get between the hunter and the hunted. At this point, all of these cetaceans will emerge from the berg and attack the hunting vessel. If nothing was killed by the time the iceberg arrives, the ship will simply be sunk. However, if the hunters were successful in taking down some prey, these ancient creatures will not be so generous. They'll snag anyone on board and pull them underwater, bringing them to caverns in the underside of the iceberg. Nobody who has suffered this fate has ever been heard from again. There's a lot more lore to this one concerning gods, haircuts, and shamans, but I'll leave that to you to explore. For now, we'll leave it at a magical moving iceberg full of ancient creatures that will sink any ship that threatens local wildlife. I'd say that's a pretty sweet SCP.
Coming in at 2, SCP-2846. SCP-2846 is a massive aquatic octopoid entity, currently estimated to be at least 955 to 990 meters in length. It collectively refers to a set of phenomenon occurring within the Gulf Atlantic region of the Atlantic Ocean. This entity is known to appear from deep water during storms within the Gulf Atlantic region and attack civilian vessels, specifically cruise liners or merchant ships. Now, 2846A's attacks are sporadic and often occur quickly and without prior warning. Foundation assets in the region have utilized United States Navy deep-sea radar wells to more accurately detect the appearance of SCP-2846A, though this has only provided on average an additional 5 minutes of preparation. Now, SCP-2846B is a large seafaring vessel that appears during A's appearance events. This vessel, which appears to be Pennsylvania-class super dreadnought battleship, also appears from deep water before surfacing at the location of an SCP-2846A appearance event. A is believed to be an entity that has existed for potentially thousands of years, although information confirming this is scarce. Mobile Task Force Tau QQ on board the SCP's Nikolai are to maintain a perimeter around active 2846 activation areas. In the event of an SCP-2846-A appearance event, MTF-T11 is to utilize the Kensington Berrymen high-power transmitting device to communicate with SCP-2846-B, and then to maintain contact with B throughout the engagement. And finally coming in at number 1, SCP-1451. 1451 is a set of metal statues, 26 in total, which are individually referred to as SCP-1451, 1 through 26, which all appear to be of children with heights ranging from 1.32 meters to 1.43 meters. 1451 can be in 3 distinct states of motion, referred to as Class 1 to 3 scenarios. During a Class 1 scenario, no movement is detected. This state is the most ideal for containment. During both Class 1 and Class 2 scenarios, SCP-1451 are standing in a circle, each one grasping the hands of the statues adjacent to them and facing outwards. During a Class 2 scenario, 1451 will animate slightly, shifting themselves with the apparent goal of counterclockwise locomotion. The hands on SCP-1451 will also raise and lower slightly during these moments. Bubbles can also be seen emanating from the mouths as well. Now this state must be closely monitored as it can very quickly transition into Class 3 scenario. When a solid object with a mass greater than 40 g enters the center of the circle, 1451 will animate and attempt to destroy said object. This is Class 3. 1451 has shown remarkable strength and agility in the past, though the extent of these qualities has not been found. As of right now, 1451 is contained in Area 15 and is surrounded by a sphere of wire mesh to ensure that no large objects can enter the containment, aka humans who could potentially meet their end. Access is denied to all persons attempting to enter regardless of rank.
Coming in at number 5, we've got Grabbers from Grabbers. There should be a more scientific name for these brutes, but I haven't heard an accurate description yet. Well, not more accurate than Grabbers anyways. They're weird, fleshy masses of tentacles and blood-sucking tongues who kill whatever they can get their tendrils on. At first, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. They take down a bunch of whales and lay some eggs in the sand, but they only subsist on blood and water, so there's no way they could make it on land and kill a bunch of folks, right? Well, unless they show up on a remote, rainy Irish island, and then they can flop around to their greasy little heart's content, now couldn't they? Uh-oh. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, from little floppy baby ones that might end up attached to you like an oversized leech, to mid-sized mama ones who could hypothetically drain all the blood from you after grabbing your head, to gigantic, truck-sized, swirling balls of limbs who can tear vehicles apart and swallow people whole. Yeesh. And they're rolling out of the water? That's bad news. The one saving grace is that they're so purely dependent on blood and water that alcohol can really mess them up. Feeding them booze straight up is a bit of a challenge though, considering they're extremely aggressive predators, but there's a workaround. If your blood alcohol level is high enough, they won't want to drink it. And if they do, they'll get knocked the fuck out. Classic. I always knew drinking in excess would save my life someday. These rules don't apply to other horror movies, unfortunately. Drink too much, you probably get stabbed. Oh, and the big ones can definitely still kill you even if you're plastered. Yeah, they might just slap you to Kingdom Come with one of their many tree-sized tentacles. Maybe postpone the Irish vacation until all the beaches are cleared of eggs, eh? Hey, if you're liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps us with the algorithm. Let's keep it moving. Coming in at number 4, we've got Becky and Harry from Creepshow. Can you hold your breath for a long time? Because if not, you'd better get to training. Because if you ever run into a ruthless rich man, or if you ever become one, you might find yourself neck deep in sand and watching the tide come in.
If you can hold your breath, if you can hold your breath.
This one comes from the short Something to Tide You Over. Of course, the millionaire himself, Richard Vickers, is only the beginning of this aquatic horror story. After finding out that his wife Becky has been unfaithful to him, Richard lures her lover Harry out to a secluded beach and buries him alive at gunpoint. Becky gets buried too, and they're all connected by CCTVs. Richard heads back up to his luxurious estate and watches the two panic as the tide inches closer and closer. And hey, if they can hold their breath long enough, they might be able to wriggle out once the water covers them and loosens the sand. Eesh. Well, they do find a way to get free, free, but not as living, dry human beings. No, they come back as waterlogged, revenge-seeking seaweed people. Guns can't hurt them. Punches can't hurt them. They can't be stopped, and they stink of seawater and rotten fish. Becky and Harry, together forever, rotting and sloshing. Yuck. They do indeed get their revenge too. They bury old Richard neck deep in sand, letting him experience the same fate they did. But remember, if he can hold his breath for a really long time, maybe he'll find a way out. Or maybe, just maybe, he'll end up waterlogged and revenge fueled too. Such classic horror themes here, eh? You reap what you sow, you can't get away with everything. Coming in number 3, we've got the creature from Leviathan. Widely underappreciated, Leviathan is a wonderful work of special effects mastery. The underwhelming plot might have something to do with its relatively small renown, but there are enough wicked scares and awesome creature moments to make up for that. The movie got a lot of flack when it was released for being really similar to Alien and The Thing, but who the hell considers that a bad thing? Moving on, let's talk about the creature itself. After an underwater mining crew comes across a scuttled Russian ship, Leviathan, things start to go sideways. After 2 of the crew succumb to extremely strange circumstances, it becomes apparent that the Russian crew from the Leviathan had some weird stuff done to them. Something about mutagens and tainted vodka for sure, but soon enough the underwater mining crew starts seeing these strange effects. Whatever was in that booze is now out and about, assimilating crew members. You'd think liquor was safe, but this isn't Grabbers. It starts small, but manages to remain terrifying and fascinating throughout every possible iteration. The transformation this creature goes through are incredible. Like, it's a shame more folks don't watch this movie just for the practical effects. There's a slimy lamprey version that eats its way inside a man and then becomes a terrible tentacle beast. It manages to spread even further, infecting. Coming in number 3, we've got SCP-1569. Anyone here ever been punched by a shrimp? No? Well, thank your lucky stars, because that is the last thing you want. Especially when it's a massive, weirdly modified peacock mantis shrimp meant exclusively for punching extremely hard. I'm sure you've heard of a peacock mantis shrimp before. They're famous for being able to absolutely annihilate stuff in front of them with extremely fast punches. If you put a regular one in an aquarium, there's a good chance that it will smash the glass by displacing water in such a way that it creates like a shockwave. But when you get one as large as 1569, you better believe it can cause a whole lot more damage. The big shrimp is 1 meter tall, 2 meters wide, and 9 meters long, and get this, its punch can strike with a force of up to 51,000 newtons. That would just vaporize someone, and imagine the shockwave. At first it appeared that this odd underwater entity had the intelligence of an average dog, and was content to just hang out with people. Sure, it would go and absolutely pulverize some underwater prey from time to time, but other than that it just seemed like an extra powerful version of a creature that already existed. However, one day something weird happened. The shrimp went dormant and opened up like a living mech, and out popped the dude in competitive swimwear. And if I'm understanding the subsequent events correctly, this dude was essentially piloting this gigantic shrimp. Why? How? Was he the one acting like a dog? We may never know. But there is a special insignia on both the shrimp suit and the man inside, and it seems that there are some other strange connecting threads. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-2770. No good deed goes unpunished, am I right? And this is especially true when you're out on the high seas and come across what appears to be a stranded man on an inflatable life raft. Most folks would head right over to help the poor castaway, right? But did any of them stop and think about why he might be out there in the first place? Oh boy. 2770 is a strange phenomenon where vessels spot what appear to be a poor unfortunate soul floating along on a yellow dinghy. It will appear and attempt to flag down manned vessels nearby, seemingly looking for rescue. If the vessel it targets does indeed come over to pick him up, it will initiate what's known as a boarding event. This is when an anomalous submarine will surface nearby and open its hatch. Once this hatch is open, it's game over. The rescuing vessel, along with the dude in the raft, will be pulled underwater at speeds upwards of 200 miles per hour, never to be seen again. Well, the castaway will appear again, but the other vessel? It's done. There doesn't seem to be a limit on the size of things that can get yanked underwater by this anomaly, and it has been seen pulling truly enormous ships to their doom. One time the Foundation even scooped the stranded man up in a helicopter and brought him back to HQ away from any large source of water. They thought they were so clever until they remembered the water table. The Foundation site he was brought to is no longer in operation. And finally at number 1 we've got SCP-169. the Leviathan. There's nothing quite like this in the sea, so you'd better watch out. Sailors and mariners have been talking about this creature for centuries. It's the stuff of legends. What else could inspire awe at such a level and survive for ages and ages? At this point, the Foundation really has nothing they can do about it, so they just try and keep the legends, well, legendary. It measures somewhere between 2,000 and 8,000 square kilometers and moves quite slowly under the water. Because it's so huge, there isn't really anything anyone can do about it. No structures can be built to contain it, and no weapons can be engineered to destroy it. Any satellite images of it shifting are to be destroyed. So sleep easy with the knowledge that it's been around longer than pretty much anything else on the surface of the planet and likely isn't going anywhere soon. Can't do anything about it, why worry? I'm thinking about my next kayak trip a little differently now, how about you? Although a good deal of these are in oceans, where I am a lake kind of guy.
Coming in at number 5, Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a great old one of great power that lies in a depth-like slumber beneath the Pacific Ocean in his sunken city of R'lyeh. To quote H.P. Lovecraft himself, that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. The most detailed description of this hulking cosmic monster comes to us from the Call of Cthulhu, as well as statues of the creature constructed by an artist after a series of baleful dreams, is to have, I quote, yielded simultaneous pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature. A pulpy, tentacled head surmounted a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings. In the Call of Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft states that Cthulhu represents a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face was a mass of feelers, a scaly rubbery looking body, prodigious claws on hind and fore feet, and long narrow wings behind. Castro, a Cthulhu cultist, reports that the Great Old Ones are telepathic and knew all that was occurring in the universe. They were able to communicate with the first humans by molding their dreams, thus establishing the Cthulhu cult. But after R'lyeh had sunk beneath the waves, I quote, the deep waters full of one primal mystery through which not even thought can pass had cut off the spectral intercourse. To quote H.P. Lovecraft's work at the Mountain of Madness, with the upheaval of new land in the South Pacific, tremendous events began. Another race, a land race of beings shaped like octopi and properly corresponding to the fabulous pre-human spawn of Cthulhu, soon began filtering down from cosmic infinity and precipitated a monstrous war which for time drove the old ones wholly back to the sea. Later peace was made and the new lands were given to the Cthulhu spawn, whilst the old ones held the sea and the other lands. The Antarctic remained the centre of the old ones' civilization, and all the discoverable cities built there by the Cthulhu spawn were blotted out. Then suddenly the lands of the Pacific sank again, taking with them the frightful stone city of R'lyeh and all the cosmic octopi, so that the old ones were once again supreme on the planet. A lot to consume, I know, and perhaps I'm slightly cheating with Cthulhu considering he is a land monster swallowed into the seas, but I did it and I'm glad. Don't fight me on this. You will lose. Coming in at number 4, Chul. Chul are cosmic monsters that hail from the world of Dungeons and Dragons. The Chul can breathe air and water and can sense magic within 120 feet of it at will. I quote, I fought a Chul once. My sword bounced right off its carapace. It still has that sword, and the arm I swung it with. They were large lobster-like aberrations with hatred for surface-dwelling humanoids. The many tentacles that surrounded their mouths were capable of causing paralysis with a single touch, thus leaving their unfortunate victim at the mercy of the Chul's powerful claws. Amphibious by nature, the Chuls were actually not great swimmers at the beginning, preferring to engage in combat either on land or very shallow water. They would often wait by a shoreline, while submerged or partially submerged in murky water, until it heard a suitable prey item either within or without the water that it could perform a surprise attack upon. They were incredibly strong combatants, choosing to fight by grabbing and piercing their target with their enormous claws. Much like a number of other deadly cosmic monsters, Chuls had psychic abilities. However, it was unusual for a young Chul to have access to such powers. Instead, they would gradually become able to exude psychic static as they aged. Older and larger creatures were able to emit a psychic moan that weakened resistance to psychic attacks, and use a psychic lure to draw victims towards it. That's a lot of psychics. All in all, these dudes were deadly and were not to be messed with, and also they're just downright terrifying to look at. Wilmarth Foundation's targets during Project X in March of 1980. The operation was ultimately unsuccessful, and she was able to escape the partial destruction of the Deep One city outside Innsmouth Harbour, along with Father Dagon and Cathilla. Coming in at number 2, Father Dagon, also known as Dagon, is yet another creature which appears in the H.P. Lovecraft-inspired Cthulhu mythos. Father Dagon is a horrifically looking humanoid over 50 feet tall and resembles an enormously oversized deep one with a fish-like face, flapping gills, and a scaled slimy hide. There is much debate over whether Dagon is a true Great Old One or simply a deep one grown to colossal proportions, as some deep ones continue to grow in size over the course of their life. Along with his consort Mother Hydra and Great Cthulhu, Dagon is a member of the Deep One's Holy Trinity, the trio of beings worshipped as gods by the oceanic species. Not only that, but Cthulhu also entrusted the guardianship of his daughter Cthulhu to Dagon and Mother Hydra, and the pair are thought to hold watch over her in one of their great underwater cities somewhere in the North Atlantic. In addition to their following of Deep Ones, Dagon and Hydra are also worshipped by a cult of humans and human Deep One hybrids known as the Prehistoric Order of Dagon. Like our last number, Dagon was one of the targets of the Wilma Foundation's Project X in the early 1980s. The objective of the operation was to annihilate Father Dagon, Mother Hydra, and Cthulhu, but it was unsuccessful and the three escaped safely. And finally coming in at number 1, Drowner of Hope. The Drowner of Hope is an Eldrazi, an ancient race native to the Blind Eternities that have neither physical form nor color alignment. Their nature is ceaseless hunger, so they travel between planes, devouring the mana and life energy until the plane's destruction. Though each lineage has a distinct anatomy, each one of them seems to have commonality. A proboscis located somewhere near a joint acts as a feeding tube, attaching to a subject and draining them of life. Eldrazi proper and their infant spawns have no color alignment, and the mere presence of larger Eldrazi can cause reality to dissipate. However, Eldrazi drones born to serve the larger base species are often aligned. Now, what makes this race interesting is that they are genderless, lacking apparent biological sex, and display no awareness of the concept of gender. They are also known to follow ley lines to move on a plane's surface. Now, the Drowner of Hope was specifically created for the oceans, and like I said, drains life from everything it touches. It doesn't get more terrifying than that.
Number 5. The Frilled Shark. Chlamydoslacus angeneus and Chlamydoslacus africana, or better known as the frilled shark and the frilled South African shark, are the two extinct species of shark that swam our oceans. Thank gosh. Well, actually, still kinda do. The frilled shark is considered a living fossil, not just its age and time spent surfing the coast, due to its primitive eel-like physical trait, the brown color, the jaws, 8-foot body, and the way its fins, spine, and head move under the water are common in ancient serpents and water creatures. So this thing is like an eel-serpent-shark hybrid. Yeah. Little jarring, commonly referred to simply as the frilled shark because of its 6 pairs of gill slits at its throat. It swims amongst the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, usually in deep, dark, murky waters of the outer continental shelf and upper continental slope. These deep dive sharks usually live and sleep near the ocean floor. Okay, that's a good sign, of course. They live on a diet of cephalopods, smaller sharks, and even swim to the surface at night to feed what's floating atop on the surface. When hunting, the frilled shark moves like an eel, bending and slithering to swallow prey with its long and flexible jaws, which are equipped with 300 rows of recurved, needle-like teeth. So am I just gonna like snorkel into one of these things any day now? Well, good thing is they're really hard to find. Like, really hard. Usually caught by accident in commercial fishing nets, usually at depths anywhere between 50 and 1,000 meters. So unless you're free diving at night, you should be okay. Yeah, they like it deep and dark. I'd say these things are already scarier than the Meg. It's like a shark but an eel-snake hybrid with a shark head and shark-size teeth. That sounds a bit scarier. Well, I mean, the Meg preferred warmer, shallower waters, so maybe this one's a tie. I don't know who's snorkeling 2 miles deep, but it's certainly not me, okay? In my opinion, I'd take a large great white over this dinosaur-looking thing slithering after me any day. Number 4. The fang-toothed fish. Ah yes, the Anoplogaster cornuta, or commonly known as the fangtooth. I wonder why. Though they spend most of their time in the deep, common fangtooths are known to migrate towards the surface at night. Sorry, the fangtooths are known to migrate towards the surface at night. That is the scariest sentence I've ever said. Dude, these are way scarier than this giant ancient shark. Like, all the scariest things come out at night, you notice that? And root canals, but they're usually done during the day. The word Megalodon is Greek words meaning giant tooth. I'd take big teeth over this thing chasing me around any day. Thankfully though, this guy is only about a foot in length. Okay, that's not not so bad. The fish has a mouth that are full of long snake teeth, perfect for hanging onto its prey as they shake. The lockable jaws ensure that, although thrashing may occur, the fangtooth's teeth are locked clamps that effortlessly swim with dinner in its mouth, just getting dragged deeper and deeper down, wiggling and can't move, trying to run for their lives. Well, swim for their lives. And fish of any size. I'm sorry? Yep, any size. Common fangtooths have been recorded at depths of about 5,000 meters, so whatever lives down there, it's game on. Look at this thing. I was scared of sunfish and seaweed brushing up against my legs. This thing swimming by me, this thing? It looks like a night terror in itself, stalking their preferred prey of crustaceans and, of course, other fishes the same size. Common fangtooths are more active than many other deep-sea fish and seek out food for meal and sport rather than being purely ambush predators eating when they're hungry. That's terrifying. Packing up for the long winter, huh? Their huge mouth and very long teeth ensure that they are able to attack prey and actually hold on while they relocate them to a deeper, darker spot where they can kind of take their time on the meal. I've swam with sharks. In my opinion, this thing's way scarier. Like, eating small critters running around the ocean floor, sure, but also imagine eating something the same size of itself with teeth? No problem? Slowly devouring it, bite by bite? Yeah, that's way scarier. Come on. Just reattaching itself every bite? Taking you along for the free ride? Yeah, that's horrifying. And number 3, the big fin squid. Of the genus Magnapinidae family, the big fin squid, or as I like to call it, this ocean alien with shoulders, belongs to a group of rarely seen cephalopods with a distinctive morphology, meaning they're really, really weird and rare. Magnapini meaning big fin, of course. The first record of us catching and looking at this family comes from a specimen talismani caught off the Azores in 1907. This was our first look at this bizarre fish, but due to the damaged nature of the find, little information could be extracted and was classified just as a squid. The problem is when you pull these things out of its atmosphere, it just looks like a piece of wet crinoline dress all of a sudden. Don't get the whole terrifying effect, you know? In 1956, a similar squid was caught in the South Atlantic, but during the 80s, 2 specimens were found in the Atlantic, then 3 more were found in the Pacific, and eventually the creatures found a place amongst the books as its own species, entering the family Magnapinidae. Squids. Okay, so it's not actually a squid, but loosely related, like a third cousin of maybe alien origin. This thing looks like it crashed here on an asteroid, I'm just gonna say it, doesn't it? Like there's only 12 of these, not many. The arms and tentacles are the same length. The appendages are also huge and held perpendicular to the body, creating the appearance of a illusion of arms and elbows, giving its trademark alien figure. Most remarkable is the length of the elastic tentacles, which has been estimated around 20 to 30 times its mass and length. Deep sea video evidence puts the total length of the largest specimens at 10 meters long. Yeah, that's 2 trucks. Close-ups of the body and head show us that the fins are extremely large, being proportionately nearly as big as those of a big fin squid. Hence, the comparison. While they do appear similar, no specimens or samples of the adults have been taken out of the water yet, leaving their exact identity, bodily functions, and internal organs a mystery. Awesome. Yes, more mysteries under the water. Alright, I only had really bad night terrors already. Let's just add this in there. Yeah, I'd take a shark swimming with a brain at me rather than this alien thing swimming up to me and just staring at me, trying to understand me for about an hour. Terrifying.
Coming in at number 5, SCP-3700. 3700 is the designation for a circular area in the North Sea with a diameter of 800 kilometers, encompassing the archipelagos of Faroe. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Orkney and Shetland. It has an abnormal depth, with the seafloor located 5 kilometers below the ocean surface compared to an average 250 to 300 meters for the rest of the North Sea. This SCP is subject to a wide and varied array of anomalous occurrences due to ritualistic interactions between 2 entities, which have been designated SCP-3701 and SCP-3702. Effects of SCP-3700 are entirely dependent on which entity successfully subdues the other during each ritual. All rituals, with the exception of 2 consistent dates, take place at random periods of time. SCP-3701 and 2 always interact on dates corresponding with the spring and fall equinox of the given year. Now, the specific interactions between 1 and 2 consist of prolonged struggle where each entity will attempt to temporarily kill or subdue the other. Interactions on equinox dates are usually short and can occur in random locations, with the victor of the previous interactions quickly dispatching the other entity. Now here's where things get really interesting. Successful defeat of one entity by the other induces a number of different geological and meteorological changes within the 800 km zone. When SCP-3701 subdues 2, storms and harsh weather are immediately dispelled. Reproductive rates of local oceanic and island fauna increased by a factor of 3. Erosion rates increased by a factor of 5. When SCP-3702 subdues 1, meteorological conditions become perilous. Continuous storms ranging in strength from Category 1 to 5 hurricanes occur. Travel by sea is near impossible. Ocean food sources are driven from the area due to the extreme condition. Yikes, pretty rough. As of right now, Foundation Naval Task Force Delta 7 is currently assigned to patrol the area. Coming in at number 4, SCP-835. 835 appears to be a large mass of coral-like polyps weighing an unknown amount. The polyps are larger than any known coral species, growing to more than 1 meter in diameter in some cases. The central mass is roughly oval-shaped with a very large polyp at each end. This SCP is incapable of locomotion and appears to anchor itself with the large tentacles projected from the SCP-835 polyps. Now these are also used in feeding and are coated with a sticky adhesive substance. The tentacles are also quite strong and have been shown to be capable of damaging plate steel. That's pretty scary. The coral itself is extremely hard, requiring high-powered diamond drills to collect even small samples. 835 also grows at a very accelerated rate, capable of adding 50 pounds of mass every single day. Not just that, but it is also susceptible to many chemicals, which in turn causes 835 to seal up and halt all growth for 24 hours, prompting development and use of suppression tactic AA6. It is also known to emit a large mass of liquidy material several times a day from the large polyps on each end. This appears to be made of semi-digested solids, fecal material, and semen. Absolutely disgusting. As of right now, 835 is to be monitored and checked daily for new growth. In the event 835 becomes hostile, suppression tactic AA6 is to be immediately implemented until aggressive action ceases. The containment area must be maintained in open ocean due to the highly aggressive response of 835 to confinement for any length of time. Coming in at number 3, SCP-3934. 3934 is a species of amphibious reptiles produced via anomalous means by Marshall, Carter and Dark LLP. Essentially, this SCP is the Loch Ness Monster. Kinda. Instances of 3934, classified as Plesiosaurus pygmaeus, grow to only just over half the size of other plesiosaurs, with adult males average 1.9 meters in length and adult females averaging 1.7 meters. These specimens are omnivorous and subsist on a diet of fish and aquatic flora. Now, 3934 were originally created in the early 20th century by MC&D with the intent to sell instances as exotic pets or aquarium denizens. MC&D capitalized on the legend's popularity to sell specimens to numerous wealthy individuals of noble or industrial background in both Europe and the United States. Between 1935 and present, an estimated 1200 to 1400 SCP-3934 instances have been created and sold. They are said to be highly social animals, both with members of their own species and with humans. Now, although they are generally friendly, abandoned instances of 3934 often react with uncharacteristic violence towards humans and other mammals. As of right now, a pod of 59 SCP-3934 instances is currently contained within Site 220's Parazoology Reserve. Coming in at number 3, SCP-4217. 4217 refers to both the Bismarck, an anomalous German battleship sunk in 1941, and the large cephalopod organism that is fused to the inside of its hull. SCP-4217-B possesses a pair of octopoid eyes which protrude from the base of SCP-4217-A's superstructure and 12 100 to 200 meter long muscular hydrostats that extend from an opening in the stern. Now, aside from the presence of SCP-4217-B. SCP-4217-A shows no signs whatsoever of damage sustained from battle or subsequent decades submerged underwater. B seemingly operates A's systems. This includes its full armament of 8 main guns, 44 secondary guns, and 12 anti-aircraft guns. B also can operate A's propellers to reach speeds approaching 40 knots, but only while surfaced. This is way too much power for a creature to have and could be incredibly detrimental if you piss it off. While submerged, SCP-4217 achieves locomotion via ejection of water from B's body cavity. Typically, this SCP remains submerged at a depth of 500 to 1100 meters, navigating its territory. However, the SCP will periodically surface and enter a hostile state. During this period, it will seek and attack non-threatening targets. Now, Foundation naval forces are to patrol the SCP's territory with 3 or more battleships under the guise of the British Royal Navy. During a hostile state, naval forces are to engage with the SCP until it reverts to a passive state. Survivors from civilian vessels attacked by the SCP are to be recovered and processed in accordance with maritime disinformation protocols. Coming in at number 2, SCP-1128. SCP-1128 is an entity that manifests as a massive aquatic predator to anyone given a full description of the being's appearance through either spoken, written descriptions, or visual depictions of the being. Persons infected by SCP-1128 will initially exhibit no abnormal behavior, though some cases show a general aversion to activities involving bodily immersion in water such as bathing or swimming. Should subjects become fully immersed in water, they will disappear completely under the surface of the water regardless of the water's actual depth. In most cases, they will reappear moments later in a panicked state and frantically try to leave the water. However, in other cases, the water will become polluted with blood and debris, confirmed to be the remains of the subject. That sucks. The subjects that reappear intact claim that they were transported to a vast ocean where they were pursued by SCP-1128. Interviews with the surviving subjects carry further contamination, as descriptions of the being's appearance trigger further infections. Yikes. Written description or imagery of the SCP's appearance or videos of the entity breaching found outside of the Foundation are to be destroyed, and Class C amnestics are to be administered to anyone exposed to such information or showing signs of the SCP's contamination. A written description of the entity's appearance is to be kept at site blank for experimental purposes only and is not to be read by anyone other than D-Class used for testing. If exposed, staff are to report immediately for administration of Class C amnestics. And finally, coming in at number 1, SCP-3000. SCP-3000 is a massive aquatic serpentine entity strongly resembling a giant moray eel. The exact length of 3000 is impossible to determine, however it is believed to be somewhere around 600 and 900 kilometers, with the head of SCP-3000 measuring roughly 2.5 meters in diameter, and sections of the body proper being around 10 meters in diameter. Yeah, horrifying. Now, 3000 is typically a sedentary creature, only moving its head in response to certain stimuli or during feeding. The majority of its body is located around the Ganges fan and rarely moves at all. SCP-3000 is carnivorous and despite its sedentary nature is capable of moving quickly to dispatch prey, aka us if we were ever to encounter it. Despite its size, it is believed that SCP-3000 does not require sustenance to maintain its biological functions, aka it kills for the hell of it. When 3000 consumes prey, a thin layer of viscous, dark grey substance classified as Y909 is excreted from its skin, with the end result of its digestive processes currently unknown. In some historical records, Dr. Eugene Getz reports on SCP-3000, I quote, "The unease was felt throughout the entire crew as we descended on that first night. Whether this was due to our uncertainty at what we would discover or something more sinister, I would not speculate. At around 0940 hours, we first observed the head of the entity. The unease was palpable now. Several other crew members complained of feeling hazy and of being uncertain what they were supposed to be doing. When we were within 50 meters, the entity turned slowly to look at us. Even now, as I recall watching this thing coil around in the darkness, I can still hear Williams barking like a mad dog in the rear of the vessel, screaming and flailing, shouting about how he could see it in his head." Frightening stuff. The area containing SCP-3000, currently a region of the Bay of Bengal, roughly 300 kilometers in diameter, is to be routinely patrolled by Foundation naval vessels. Under no circumstances are civilians allowed to attempt deep sea exploration or diving efforts in the quarantined area. area. Individuals believed to have contacted SCP-3000 are to be contained, quarantined, and processed at Site-151. Sadly, there is currently no known cure for exposure to 3000. As such, affected individuals should be contained and quarantined for further evaluation. Awful.
Number 2. The gulper eel. Eurypharynx pelicanoides. The pelican eel, or what I just said, is basically a deep sea eel. Like deep sea. If you've seen the Ridley Scott's Alien film franchise or the Predator universe, you'll know that this thing looks exactly like that. Yeah, am I wrong? But instead of like 8 feet tall, it's only 3 feet tall. Yeah, still terrifying. The pelican eel has been described by many synonyms, yet nobody has been able to demonstrate that more than one species of pelican eel exists. Riding solo, huh? That's creepy. One of a kind kinda deal. It's also commonly known as the gulper eel, or umbrella mouth gulper eel, due to its terrifying size and function of its mouth. The mouth and jaws resemble a pelican's gulp, hence the name. The morphology of the pelican eel can be difficult to describe because they're so fragile and oddly shaped that they become damaged when they're pulled out of the deep sea's immense pressure. We can't just swim all the way down there and take pictures, you know? The pelican eel's most notable feature, its mouth, which is much larger than its body, like 5 times the size. The mouth is loosely hinged and can be opened wide enough to swallow a fish 3 times its size. This thing has like a lower mandible of a python, just like unhinging it before dinner. The lower jaw is hinged at the base of the head with no body mass behind it, making the head look abysmally huge. It's basically a swimming mouth with a spine, tail, and I think a brain? Yeah, we don't really know yet. With dot-sized eyes, yeah. It usually is always moving too, rarely stationary. It hunts in some sort of folded state. The pelican eel's mouth has the capability to change to an inflated shape when hunting, giving the mouth its notably massive appearance. Dude, the mouth unfolds like the James Webb telescope. Like 100 working parts. Technically, it's like a geometric shape unfolding as a mouth, followed by stretching, like a cootie catcher. Remember those? This thing eats like a cootie catcher. When the pelican eel is in pursuit of its prey, it slowly starts unfolding itself. Imagine this thing's trucking behind you, unhinging its jaw, slowly the closer it gets. The head and jaw structure unfold and spread horizontally, not vertically. Okay, that's scarier all of a sudden. The unspreading event, or as I like to call it, lunch, is followed by the inflation of the mouth from a stretchable skin of the head, which it feeds on prey. Then, water's expelled via the gills. Okay, so it's basically a large strainer, and after it eats, it blows itself out, releases all the water back into the water. Just wrings itself out. Come on, this thing is horrifying. Thank gosh it only eats crustaceans and creepy little crawlies on the bottom seafloor. And number 1, the phantom jellyfish. Stygiomedusa gigantea. I love that word. Commonly known as the giant phantom jellyfish, is a part of the monotypic genus of deep sea jellyfish. Stygiomedusa. With only around 110 sightings in 110 years, it's a jellyfish that is rarely seen. Well, I guess like once a year. I don't know, I'm not really good at math. Believed to be widespread throughout the world, it thrives in all oceans and seas, with the exception of the Arctic Ocean. Yeah, a little too cold for it. The Monterey Bay Aquarium remotely operated underwater vehicles have only sighted the beast 27 times in 27 years. Dude, what's with all the matching numbers? Is this CIA run? A study conducted by the Journal of the Marine Biological Association of the UK revealed info regarding the species and had this to say. The Gigantea is thought to be one of the largest invertebrate predators on this planet. One more time please. The largest predator. It is commonly found in the ocean's midnight zone, reaching depths of about 7,000 meters. Deepest human free dive is about 300 meters. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Unless you have a wide lung span. The largest predators in the deep sea, the giant phantom jellyfish's typical prey consists of plankton and small fish. The S. gigantea tends to be dominant in locations with a low productivity system, meaning it deters other predators of fish. Like, it likes it quiet. A shy eater, I'd say. However, when this thing is hungry, it battles squids, eels, and even whales. Okay, never mind. Just when I thought this thing was really cute, it fights off whales for food. The first specimen, weighing in at 100 pounds, was collected in 1899, but it wasn't recognized as its own species until 1959. Imagine this thing chasing you and catching you, tangling you in like 100 feet of netting tentacles so it can just eat you slowly. Does this thing have a consciousness? Like, you can kind of tell if a shark is swimming near or close to you or what it's kind of feeling. This thing just slowly, softly swimming towards you before it ingests you? Way scarier. Like, I'm convinced these landed here. The oceans are way scarier than things on land. We haven't even started to uncover the whole ecosystem yet.
Coming in at number 5, SCP-054-FR. 054-FR is a phenomenon occurring in some waves off the western coasts as well as some eastern coasts. It is characterized by the physical transformation of effective waves to resemble the jaws of a great white shark. This SCP is capable of remaining unnoticed until it is almost too late to act. It is capable of forming on waves at least 4 meters tall, but the maximum height of which it can reach is unknown. Effective waves are capable of rolling at 3 times the speed of non-effective waves if a non-aquatic animal of a human being is situated between SCP-054 and the closest coast. Appearances of this SCP are growing considerably if the previously evoked individuals are situated at a distance of at least 250 meters from the coast, whether they are swimmers, divers, or aquatic vehicles of moderate size, with the most common victims having been surfers. Injuries caused by SCP-054 are similar to that which could be accomplished by a great white shark, but with the pressure being directly proportional to the height of the effective wave. Injuries in 68% of cases occur during the collapse of the wave over the victim. Reported injuries have been as simple as a removed limb to total disappearance of the victim. The only method of avoiding injury is to dive under the wave before impact. An exclusion zone has been established around all shorelines where an occurrence of SCP-054-FR have been observed. Only personnel with a clearance level of 3 or higher may enter the containment zones, and only for experimental purposes. Access is forbidden to any and all civilians under the pretext of conducting research on a population of marine animals. Sneaky stuff, this is why I don't go in the ocean, ever. There's something lurking. Coming in at number 4, SCP-3389. SCP-3389 is a man-made lake located in the northeastern United States near the town of blank, Pennsylvania. Any human being entering SCP-3389 will, after a variable amount of time, not exceeding 10 minutes, be pulled beneath the surface of the water regardless of the depth at which they were standing. A few minutes after being submerged, a statue of the subject's exact likeness will rise from the water in their place. These statues are unremarkable beyond their anomalous origin, consisting of a synthetic resin and concrete mixture and giving color by standard household latex paint. Upon discovery by the Foundation, there were at least 47 of these statues scattered around the lake, all in various states of decay. 13 currently remain, including that of a Dr. Blank. It is currently unknown how many instances are present prior to containment. Speaking of containment, all building, private and public land in a 10-kilometer radius around SCP-3389 have been purchased by the Foundation and designated Provisional Site 91. All roads and pedestrian pathways leading to the SCP are to be cordoned off and maintain a patrol of armed guards. An electrified chain link fence topped with barbed wire has been erected in the immediate vicinity surrounding 3389. 8 guard towers, each occupied by no less than 2 armed Foundation personnel and equipped with security cameras, have been erected to watch over the SCP at all times. Back to the statue though, if any instances of the statue's collapse, personnel stationed in the surrounding guard towers are to terminate any emerging statues instantly. No entities emerging from the lake are to reach beyond the chain link fence. If any personnel are apprehended by an instance of SCP-3389, every attempt is to be made to terminate them before they can be pulled into the water.
Number 2, Skyla and Charybdis. Skyla and Charybdis are sort of like a wrestling tag team duo as far as mythical sea monsters go. They worked in tandem, hounding opposite sides of a narrow strait of water, and famously clashed with the Argo Odysseus, made famous in Homer's Odyssey. The first beast, Skyla, was described to be a dragon-like creature, having 12 feet, 6 long necks, and atop each neck was a head full of razor-sharp teeth. Sailors unlucky enough to pass through Skyla's territory were swooped from their vessel and swallowed whole before they'd even know what would happen. That doesn't sound so bad, all in an instant. There's some speculation that perhaps the original Skyla was a very dramatized account of sailing through an underwater reef, which would definitely provide some explanation as to why a writhing mass of limbs and teeth would be shredding through a ship's hull. But Skyla is only one half of this dynamic duo, the Robin to Batman, and the other half is Charybdis. Charybdis is a little harder to describe, as it has no agreed appearance. In the original myth, the Odyssey, Charybdis presents itself as a whirlpool, savagely swirling around, creating the tides and pulling passing ships into their doom. Maybe it's just a little camera shy and it lets its more Handsome sibling, take a lot of the front-facing business. However, of the two, it could be argued that Charybdis was the more dangerous of the two, as during the Odyssey, Odysseus chose to sail his ship closer to Scylla than Charybdis, figuring that it was wiser to lose 6 men to lose the entire ship. Very wise guy. Now, the Megalodon. Drop out of this one before you even try. A one-on-one is one thing, but a duo battle against a whirlpool and a 6-headed dragon? Save yourself the embarrassment and just clock out and go home. Number 1. Jormungandr. Jormungandr is another old Nordic sea legend, also known as the Midgard serpent or the world serpent, and is a serpent so large that its tail would surround the circumference of the earth and all its oceans and loop back around onto itself inside its mouth, creating an Ouroboros. This impressive girth is where the creature gets its name, World Serpent. Jormungandr's also had a bit of a star-studded run in pop culture, appearing in Marvel Comics and most recently the new God of War, based around Nordic legends. Jormungandr is fairly central to Nordic mythology, as it was said that when the creature would stop biting its own tail and release it from its jaws, it would be one of the signs of Ragnarok, and the creature would thrash its tail and the seas would rise up and flood Midgard, the Nordic term for their realm. There are several notable myths detailing Thor's many encounters with Jormungandr, and his various attempts to overpower the beast and to slay the mighty serpent, although as the myths go, he was never quite successful. Good for me, because I actually don't think I would do too great in Ragnarok. I'm really not much of a fighter, and I don't think I would do well wrestling any Vikings. It's said that when Ragnarok occurs, Thor will slay the mighty serpent, only to find himself defeated by poison from the creature himself. All of this to say is that as far as sea monsters go, there could not possibly be anyone more powerful in lore than Jormungandr. All this beast has to do to initiate the end of the world is to take its tail out of its mouth. The Megalodon wouldn't be able to challenge this thing. It would literally be over before it began. The Jormungandr opens its mouth to start the duel, and that's it. It's done. Not only is the Megalodon done, but everything's done. Seas flooding, fires raining down from the heavens. How could there possibly be a more powerful sea monster than this? Unless they update the Nordic myths at all, I doubt anything will ever top the legend of the Jormungandr.